Listen closely. In the quiet city of Qom, a woman stands before her vanity mirror at 3 in the morning, her hands trembling as she applies foundation to skin that has never seen daylight in 20 years. This is not vanity. This is survival. And tonight, everything she has built will crumble with a single tear. Her name is Sahara Elmi, and in the marketplace where silk scarves dance in the wind and merchants call out their wares, they whisper about her like she's a myth made flesh. The woman who never ages. The woman who never sleeps. The woman whose beauty could make grown men forget their own names. But what they don't know, what they can never know, is that the face they worship isn't hers at all. Does she shower with makeup on? A fruit vendor asks his neighbor, watching Sahara glide past in a dress that catches sunlight like water. I heard she sleeps sitting up so her mascara doesn't smudge, another replies, shaking his head. Sahara hears them all. She always does. And she smiles that perfect smile, the one she's practiced 10,000 times in mirrors that have become her only friends. Because if she stops smiling, if she lets the mask slip even for a moment, they might see what lies beneath. And that terrifies her more than death itself. Inside her apartment, which overlooks the ancient city walls, her vanity table glows like an altar to forgotten gods. Brushes arranged by size. Powders in every shade of sand and honey. Creams that promise eternal youth but deliver only temporary peace. She touches each item with reverence before sitting down to begin her nightly ritual. 2 hours to remove today's face. 3 hours to prepare tomorrow's. Sleep comes in fragments, if it comes at all. Why do you do this to yourself? Her sister Maya asked once, years ago, before the distance between them became too wide to cross. You're beautiful without all of this. But Maya didn't understand. Nobody did. Beautiful wasn't enough. Beautiful was a flower that wilted. Beautiful was a promise that time always broke. Sahara needed more than beautiful. She needed permanent. She needed protection. The men came like moths to flame, drawn by something they couldn't name and didn't understand. A wealthy merchant named Hossam brought her gold bangles that sang when she moved. For the most exquisite woman in Qom, he said, his eyes hungry. You're too kind, Sahara replied, her voice like honey poured over ice. He leaned closer, emboldened by her smile. Let me take you to the coast this weekend. We can swim in the moonlight, let the sea wash away the city dust. His fingers reached for her face. I want to see you with wet hair, with nothing between us and the stars. Sahara's smile never wavered, but something cold flickered in her eyes. I don't swim, Hossen. The salt water irritates my skin. Just once, he pressed. Natural beauty is the most beautiful of all. She stood, the bangle sliding off her wrist onto the table. Thank you for the gift. But I think you should leave. Hossen left confused, but he wasn't the last. There was Tariq, who commented that her makeup seemed a bit heavy for daytime. There was Omar, who joked about wanting to see her real morning face. Each one, she dismissed. Each one, she erased from her life like chalk from a board. Because loving her meant accepting the mystery, and the moment they tried to solve it, they became dangerous. You die alone, Maya warned during their last phone call. All this effort to be perfect, and for what? You won't let anyone close enough to love you. People love what they see, Maya, Sahara whispered. If they see the truth, the love disappears. Then one evening at an art exhibition in the old quarter, where paintings hung like captured dreams and wine flowed like confession, Sahara noticed someone watching her differently. Not with hunger or fascination, but with quiet curiosity. As if she were a puzzle he had no intention of solving, only appreciating. His name was Idris Karim, an architect with kind eyes and hands that looked like they knew how to build things that lasted. He stood before a painting of a masked dancer, sipping his wine slowly. What do you see? Sahara found herself asking, surprising herself with the question. Idris turned, his expression thoughtful. I see someone hiding. But I can't tell if they're hiding from the world or from themselves. He paused. What do you see? Freedom, she said softly. In the mask, she can be anyone. Without it, she's trapped by what people expect her to be. Or, Idris replied gently, she's trapped by the mask, and without it, she'd finally be free. Their eyes met, and Sahara felt something shift inside her chest, like a door she'd welded shut beginning to crack open. This man didn't ask about her beauty routine. Didn't comment on her perfection. Didn't try to peek behind the curtain. He simply stood there, present and patient, like he had all the time in the world. They began meeting for coffee in the quiet hours before dawn, when the city still slept and Sahara's makeup was fresh enough to withstand scrutiny. Idris talked about buildings that told stories, about foundations and structures, about how the most beautiful architecture revealed its bones honestly. Concealment makes things weak, he said one morning, stirring sugar into his cup. The strongest buildings show their support beams. They're honest about what holds them up. Sahara's hand trembled slightly as she lifted her own cup. Some things need to be hidden to survive. Or, he said, his voice impossibly gentle, some things survive despite being hidden, not because of it. But he never pushed. Never questioned. Never reached for her face in the morning light or suggested a spontaneous beach trip. Idris accepted her boundaries like they were architecture he could admire without needing to enter. And for the first time since she'd made her choice all those years ago, Sahara began to feel something she'd thought was impossible. Safety. Months passed like pages turning. They walked through the old city under streetlights that flickered like dying stars. They shared meals in restaurants where the lighting was dim enough to hide the seams of her carefully constructed face. They laughed about small things, building something between them that felt solid and real. I love you, Idris said one evening, so simply that it almost didn't sound like a declaration at all. Just a fact, like gravity or sunrise. Sahara's carefully painted lips trembled. You don't know me. I know enough, he replied. I know you're afraid of something, and I know you're brave enough to keep living despite that fear. I know you see beauty in hidden things. I know your heart is bigger than you pretend it is. He took her hand. That's enough for me. And maybe that was the moment she should have told him. Should have confessed everything. But fear has a gravity of its own, and Sahara had been orbiting it for so long she'd forgotten how to break free. When he proposed on a rain-soaked evening, pulling a simple silver ring from his pocket under a flickering street lamp, Sahara said yes through tears she blinked away before they could fall. Because tears were dangerous. Tears could destroy everything. But happiness, she told herself, happiness she could allow. The wedding blazed like a bonfire in the city's finest hall. Golden lights tangled in fabric that fell from the ceiling like captured sunlight. Music swirled through rooms packed with people who'd come to see the legendary beauty finally claimed. Sahara wore a veil so thick it could have hidden a different person entirely, and under it, her makeup was architecture. Layers upon layers, sealed and set, a fortress against truth. The most beautiful bride Com has ever seen, the guests whispered. But under the veil, under the powder and paint, Sahara's heart hammered against her ribs like something trying to escape. One night. She told herself. Just get through one night. Then tomorrow you can wake early, reapply everything before he sees. Tomorrow you can maintain the illusion. Just tonight. Just survive tonight. Idris carried her over the threshold of their bedroom, decorated with candles that turned shadows into dancing specters on the walls. He set her down gently, his eyes full of something that looked dangerously like unconditional love. Finally, he breathed, reaching for her veil. My wife. Sahara turned her face away, a reflex so practiced it was instinct. Let me freshen up first, she murmured. It's been a long day. Sahara, Idris laughed, that warm sound she'd grown to crave. You don't need to freshen anything. Tonight, I just want you. All of you. No barriers between us anymore. He stepped closer, his foot catching on the edge of the ornate carpet. Time slowed into a nightmare. Idris stumbled, his arms windmilling, and his head struck the corner of the wooden bed frame with a sound that stopped Sahara's heart cold. He collapsed, silent and still. Idris! Sahara screamed, dropping beside him. Her hands shook as she touched his face, his chest, searching for life. Idris, please. Please wake up. Please don't leave me. The words poured out broken and desperate, and with them came tears. Hot, unstoppable tears that she'd held back for 2 decades, tears that ran down her cheeks like acid, like time itself dissolving. She didn't notice at first. All she saw was the man she loved lying motionless, possibly dying, possibly already gone. She pressed her face to his chest, listening for a heartbeat, her tears falling like rain onto his white wedding shirt. Don't go, she sobbed. You're the only one who stayed. The only one who didn't ask me to be anything but myself. Please, Idris. Please. Beneath her ear, his heart beat. Once. Twice. His chest rose with a breath. His eyes opened slowly, confused and unfocused. Then they focused on her face, and his expression transformed. From relief to confusion to something that looked horribly like fear. Sahara, he whispered, his voice cracking. Your face. What happened to your face? Sahara froze. Her trembling hand rose to touch her cheek, and the texture her fingers found made her stomach drop into an abyss. Dry. Lined. The skin felt like paper, like ancient parchment, like something that should have crumbled to dust years ago. She stumbled to the mirror, and the reflection that stared back wasn't the woman who'd walked down the aisle hours earlier. The makeup had run in streaks, revealing skin underneath that was wrinkled, sagging, mapped with lines that told the story of years she hadn't lived, time she'd borrowed and never paid back. No, she breathed. No, no, no. Behind her, Idris pulled himself up, leaning against the bed, his hand touching the back of his head where a lump was already forming. Sahara, I don't understand. What's happening? And the truth she'd carried like poison for so long, finally erupted. I was 35, she began, her voice shaking like leaves before a storm. I was in love with a man named Rashid. We were supposed to get married. I thought he was my forever. She laughed bitterly, the sound like breaking glass. Then I met her. His new girlfriend. 23 years old. Skin like morning light. Eyes that hadn't seen enough world to be tired yet. Idris stared, speechless. He told me I was beautiful, but beauty fades. He told me he needed someone young, someone with time ahead of them. Someone who wouldn't remind him that life ends. Sahara's reflection looked ancient now, decades collapsing onto her face with every moment. That night, I walked to the cliffs outside the city. I screamed at the stars. I begged the universe to make me beautiful forever. To make sure no man would ever leave me again. Sahara, this isn't real. This can't be. A woman appeared, Sahara continued, her voice distant, remembering. She wore clothes that looked like they'd been sewn from midnight. She said she'd heard my prayer. She said she could help. She gave me a powder, a small jar that glowed faintly in the moonlight. Wear this every day, she told me. Never miss a day. Never let anyone see you without it. And never, ever cry for anyone again. The room felt colder suddenly, as if winter had leaked through the walls. I asked what would happen if I broke the rules. She smiled, and her teeth looked too white, too sharp. The years you've borrowed will come to collect their debt. All at once. With interest. Sahara's hand gripped the edge of the vanity until her knuckles went white. I didn't care. I took the powder. I wore it every single day for 20 years. 20 years, Idris repeated, his voice hollow. You've looked the same for 20 years. There were others, Sahara whispered. After Rashid. Men who loved me, who proposed, who wanted forever. But they grew old, Idris. Grey hair, weak backs, tired eyes. And I stayed 25. Always 25. Perfect. Untouchable. Preserved. Her voice cracked. They all died eventually. And I stayed beautiful. Always beautiful. Always alone. She turned to face him, her ancient face wet with tears that kept falling, that wouldn't stop falling now that they'd started. You were different. You didn't ask me to be anything. You didn't try to see behind the mask. I thought maybe, finally, I could be loved as I was. Even if what I was a lie. Idris's face had gone pale. He stood slowly, unsteadily, one hand still on his injured head. How old are you really? 55, Sahara sobbed. But the tears, Idris. They roll. Never cry for anyone. Every tear I shed ages me. Years I borrowed coming due. And tonight I couldn't stop crying because I thought you were gone, and her voice shattered completely. I love you. I actually love you. And love is the one thing the curse can't survive. As she spoke, her hair whitened like snow falling in fast forward. Her spine curved. Her hands, once smooth and perfect, gnawed like tree roots. The skin of her face folded and refolded, decades compressing into seconds. 55. 70. 90. The years devoured her like locusts eating crops, taking back everything they'd loaned with crushing interest. Make it stop, Idris breathed, horror and pity warring in his expression. Sahara, make it stop. I can't, she cried, her voice cracking with age. This is the price. This is what happens when the mask breaks. She reached for him, her body failing now, bones grinding in sockets they weren't meant to endure. Please don't leave me. You're the only one who saw me and stayed. The only one who didn't run when things got difficult. Please, Idris. Please. But Idris stepped back, tears streaming down his own face now. Who are you? He whispered. I don't even know who you are. The woman I fell in love with was honest in her mystery. But this is... He couldn't finish. I'm still me, Sahara begged, her voice thin as paper. I'm still the woman who walked with you under streetlights. Who laughed at your terrible jokes about architecture. Who loved the way you saw beauty in broken things. I'm still her. Just older. Just real. You lied, Idris said, his voice breaking. About everything. Your face, your age, your whole life. How can I trust anything when everything was a performance? Sahara's legs gave out, and she crumpled to the floor, her wedding dress pulling around her like a ghost. Her breathing came in shallow gasps now, her heart struggling under the weight of centuries compressed into minutes. I only wanted to be loved, she whispered. I only wanted someone to stay. Her hand reached toward him one last time, fingers trembling, ancient and fragile as bird bones. Then it fell, lifeless, to the carpet. The candles flickered once, twice, and went dark. In the sudden darkness, Idris stood frozen, his hand still touching the wound on his head, his heart breaking. For a woman he'd loved and a stranger he'd married, and the tragedy of never knowing where one ended and the other began. Sahara Elmi lay still on her wedding night, her face finally bare after 20 years of hiding, finally honest after decades of lies. The powder couldn't save her now. The mask couldn't protect her. Time had come to collect, and it took everything, leaving behind only a body that looked like it had waited too long to die and a lesson written in wrinkles and regret. In the marketplace the next morning, they whispered about the bride who died on her wedding night. Some said it was her heart, that beauty that intense couldn't be sustained. Others said it was a curse, that vanity always demands its price. But nobody knew the truth except a widowed groom who carried the weight of that final night like stones in his pockets. The moral wrote itself in the dust of our vanity table, in the jars of powder that promised forever but delivered only temporary mercy. Not all that shines is youth. Not all beauty lives forever. And the mask you wear to protect yourself becomes the cage that keeps you from being truly known. Sahara Elmi chased beauty so hard she forgot to live. She hid so well she disappeared. And when love finally found her, she was too afraid to let it see her. So it left. Just like she'd always feared. But not because she wasn't beautiful enough. Because she'd never given it the chance to love her real face. The one beneath the powder. The one that told the truth. The one that could have set her free. If this story moved you, if Sahara's tragedy resonated with something in your own heart, hit that subscribe button. Share this in the comments below. Have you ever hidden behind a mask? Have you ever been too afraid to show someone the real you? Let me know. Like this video if you believe real beauty comes from being seen, not from being perfect. Because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to be loved.